What's up, nerds? Welcome back. My god, Bendis. I mean, really?
You fellas have a lot of growing up to do, I'll tell you that. Ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. Can you believe these characters? Way out of line, way out of line. Have a good mind to go to the warden about this. You know what hurts the most is the lack of respect. You know? That's what hurts the most. Except for the other thing. That hurts the most, but the lack of respect hurts the second most.
Weaver, McKenna, you're free to go.
Ridiculous.
So the news has come out already, I think it was like a few weeks back, that apparently Brian Michael Bendis is going to be moving his own, like, independent creator-owned type of thing over to Dark Horse instead of, with DC. And so I don't really know what that means as far as, like, how many more issues of his Justice League I'm going to have to suffer through. But God, I hope that we're getting to the end of it just as soon as humanly possible. I really do. I want this to be over. Granted, this particular storyline is finally over, but I need Bendis's run on this book to be over. So let's just go ahead and get into what we actually have here. Because if you remember, the Justice League right now is dealing with the Sidmar Utopica, which basically has all the powers of Superman. It's an alien being that has come to Earth to fight Superman and I think he was like trying to redeem himself in the eyes of his people or something like that. It doesn't really make much sense. And I've said before that I wanted a return to the Silver Age of comics when you would just have like random stories that kind of just dealt with random like other worlds or alien beings and stuff like that. That's almost what this was. Granted though, the way that this is written is not what I meant. So let's start out with what we actually have here. Because if you will notice, on this cover, what do you have? Is that Black Canary and Green Arrow fighting Deathstrokes? I hope you don't expect to actually see that in the story, because the Deathstrokes don't show up until the very end, and it's not Green Arrow and Black Canary who are fighting them. So let's just get into it now that we know we've been bait and switched. So we see this thing where Lois Lane's brother, who goes by the name of the Demon Rose, apparently, for Checkmate, he's getting called by her. And she's starting to ask him questions because he says, I was going to ask how you got the number of this clouded burner phone, but you're Lois Lane. She says, where are you? He says, I'm getting a pedicure. She's like, Leo, listen to me. I'm covering the story of the century and I want to make sure you aren't in the middle of it. He says, well, from my perspective, it certainly doesn't look like it. What's up? She says, why were you distracting members of the Justice League while their headquarters were under attack? So that's when he asks her, like, well, the Hall of Justice is under attack? By who? Leviathan? She says, so you didn't know anything about this? He's like, no. So she's like, all right, I gotta go. He's like, wait, who attacked that? And she just, like, hangs up on him. So all of a sudden, because he's in, if you could see right here, it took me a minute because I saw this and I was like, who the hell's talking to him? But then I realized from the first one, he's just in, like, a bathroom stall. Where? I have no idea, but he's in a bathroom stall. And I guess the other dude heard him talking. So he's like, it's all over social media, dude. He's like, thanks. So he looks it up and shit, and he sees like where the Hall of Justice was destroyed, and he's like, oh shit. He's like, right? The other dude's like, right? So you gotta love it. Sometimes you do run into friendly people in restrooms for whatever reason. Wrong place to do. If you're that type of person, please don't do that. It's so creepy. I remember I used to work at a law firm, and before like the whole pandemic bullshit, we actually worked in the office. So I remember one time I went to the restroom. I just went to pee and I was already washing my hands when like this older gentleman walks in and he was already like starting to pee. He turns to me and says, "You catch the ball game last night?" And I was like, what decade is this? I was like, what century did I fall into where this is the type of conversation I'm getting? Anyway, so we see this thing where the Justice League is continuing to fight with the Sidmar, and Superman is trying to tell him that it's over. This is another thing. The other issues we've had of Superman, he's always acting very soft, moist. What are other insulting words I can use to describe just how soft he's been? You know what I mean. Two size. Anyway, so he was doing that, and like, In this issue, apparently he decided to just flip the coin. He decides to be a hard ass all the way through. So, claps for Bendis on consistency. So then we also see this thing where like the Justice League keeps butting heads with his like United, what is it? The United Planets. I don't know what their particular group is called. It's in the United Order. There you go. So, and then we also get this thing where like every page you kind of get like one person from the United Order like introducing themselves like, this is who I am and this is the planet I'm from and this is the role that I serve. For what purpose? None. Who cares about these characters? No one. So let's just kind of get into what the actual story has, because it's very brief. Here's the other thing about this. I might not even really cover the story so much itself, at least not as in-depth as I usually do, because the thing is, this particular storyline could have been a one and done. You did not need this many issues to tell this particular story. You didn't. Because the only thing that ends up happening is that they are fighting with him, and then all of a sudden Batman shows up, and he apparently took Superman's like Phantom Zone projector, so he literally just puts him into the Phantom Zone. And Superman decides he's going to, I don't know, holographically project himself in, and he's kind of like talking to him. Where he's saying, Sinmar, last time we met, I warned you this could happen. I warned you. I even took you here and showed you this could happen, and yet you still. Why? Never mind. This is the Phantom Zone. This is where my home planet, Krypton, punished their criminals, hid their secrets, and threw away their trash. And it is now your home. So he tries to like attack Superman. He's sort of like, yeah, I'm not actually here, dude. He says, we will inform your planetary system that you're here, and hopefully you will use the time to think about your journey. He says, a power like yours, a planet as beautiful as Sinmar, your planet whose name you bear, you wasted all of it. And then he just like disappears and leaves him there. So that's what I'm saying. You literally could have done that in a one and done story. Have him attack the planet, Batman comes up, shoots him with the thing, puts him into this, and here we are. You did not need, what was this, like 3 issues now that they've been padding out this whole like Sidmar bullshit. So he goes back, and this is what I'm saying, like it was so brief. There was that, they fought, they put him in the Phantom Zone, and that was it. That was the end of it. So Black Adam asks, is he contained? Superman says he is, but Sinmar found his way past our building defense systems, past the United Planets. But Flash says, so we really shouldn't take anything for granted with this guy. And Superman says, but for now. So Naomi's like, wait, that's it? We won? That's amazing. She says, I, for one, had no idea how this was going to, and then we see Superman has his like hand out to Batman, like, give me the damn thing. So then we see Flash says, how about I take the projector and put it back in what's left of the Vault of Justice? So Batman's like, all right, yeah, good idea. And then I think Naomi asks, what am I missing? And someone else says, I'm not sure. But Superman says, years ago, when my father discovered the Phantom Zone, it was he who invented the projector to send our worst enemies away to that forsaken place. I used to think it brilliant, but having recently met my father, I see some things differently. So Naomi says like, but it was, and Batman says, the right thing to do. Absolutely. And Hippolyta even agrees by saying without question. But Aquaman says, I think Superman's point is who is to say. And Superman says, yes, who says? Batman says, every living thing in this city going to sleep tonight safe and sound says, every person in the world who will not be hurt by that unfeeling monster. Sidmar was going to burn this world, and it looked like he could. So Batman said, you know, you've never made a bad call with the projector, ever. And then Naomi comes up and is like, so your birth dad was what, like a bad dude? He says, he wasn't what I had hoped. No one's dad is. Anyway, so Hawkman says, or it's not even Hawkman. This dude says, we do so appreciate, I think his name was Hawk Slayer, right? Hold on. Because it's on the side. Hawk Slayer, gay. Anyway, so he says, but I hardly think this ends the matter. Superman says, I agree. We should all learn from what we've seen today. The Sidmar Utopica is a major threat to all of us. I put him in the same category as Mongol. Are you sure? He doesn't run his own planet like Mongol does. He didn't destroy an entire coast city like Mongol did. So why do you put him in the same category? Anyway, he says, I'll inform the Sinmar Planetaria that we have imprisoned their Utopica. From what I gathered last we spoke, they will be relieved. But I think the United Planet's philosophy should be to stand aside and let each culture dictate their own ways. So this is where the mega Daxamite, for anyone out there who just doesn't know what a Daxamite is, they're basically Kryptonians. At some point in their past, they split off from Krypton, went to a planet called Daxam, and they don't have the particular vulnerability to Krypton, which would make you think they're stronger than Superman, except they haven't a vulnerability to lead. So they have even more shit to worry about when they come to Earth, because lead is actually something that's here in abundance. Anyway, so we see her saying, except their ways brought this utopica madness to us. And Superman says, I'll take care of it. But Hawkslayer comes up and says, I am the leader of the United Order, and I must now demand that you hand over that Phantom Zone projector. We'll decide what to do with it. But Superman tells him it was a gift. Okay. He says, if you'll excuse me, our home has been, and then he walks away. But Hawkslayer tries to tell him, I don't think you understand me, Kal-El. The United Planets has given me authority to confiscate any item we deem acceptable or unacceptable. He says, we deem it so. And then we do this thing where apparently the Justice League decides to come nuts up to the table and be like, oh, do you? Okay, hold on. Everybody freeze. What are we doing? What are y'all doing? What the fuck is going on? Why are y'all trying to start a fight right now when you could just so very easily be like, no, we're not giving it to you, and walk away? What are they going to try to stop you? If they do, like you just showed, you have superior numbers. So I think them being intelligent beings are going to realize we don't have, this is not a fight we can win, and they would have left anyway. Doing this whole thing where it's like, oh yeah, you come to our planet, we're going to beat you up if we don't like you. Okay, I get it. I myself am an anarchist, so I completely understand this whole like thing of not wanting to like just give up your freedoms. But at the same time, you do know who they are, and they do seem to have like a good reason to want that from you. So at the very least, you don't have to be dicks and be like, we'll fight you. So we go back over to Lois Lane's brother. I can't remember his first name, and he hears this like conversation going on between like these people in the background where they're talking about like the destruction of the Hall of Justice, and someone says all the heroes are dead, and they're like, you don't know that. But the other person says, this is just like what happened to Cadmus. I told you, look. So the other one says, don't say that about the Justice League. We need the League. So this is where, like I said, we finally see the Deathstrokes thing, because he sees them and he says, wow, well, whoever you are, clearly I was hoping to avoid this. And one of them says, well, you didn't. Checkmate, checkmate. So apparently that's the next thing that we're gonna do here. Like I said, I don't know how much of like what's coming next is going to be Bendis. I don't even know like for how much longer he'll be on Justice League. That hasn't really been announced. But God, I hope that this is close to the end of it, because I cannot stand it. And then like also the other thing was the art style changed in this issue. In my opinion, not for the better. It's serviceable. It does what it needs to do. It tells the story, but it's not my favorite. So, just personal preference. But anyway, let's get to the backup story, because as I've been saying with every single issue of Justice League, that I actually do enjoy. So we're continuing this thing with Merlin, who has come back, and now he has gone to Atlantis. He seems to be reviving old Atlantis. And we get this first where it says, where does magic come from? A great many have attempted to answer this question. The philosopher's esoteric answer is that it stems from belief, in defiance of reality. The practitioner rightly never reveals the source of their power, but the cartographer, the historian, for them, should they yet remember in this day and age, the answer is simple. Magic comes from Atlantis, that ever-glittering example of civilization, that metropolis of science and magic, the place of the Homo Magi and the Technomancers. So that's where we see this, like, very nicely done shot. Like, this looks really cool. And I do want to point out something. It doesn't even like take place in this book. I don't know if they're like building up to bringing back Aryan, but I did not do a review. I don't even have it near me. I think it's in the other room. Anyway, I did read the Aquaman 80th anniversary special. I think, who was it? Was it Stephanie Phillips who did the is it here? I think it might be here. Give me a minute. Found it. Yes, I do have it. Who wrote the story? Because they actually brought Aryan back in this particular story, and I was so happy to see that because I love the character. Granted, I was not the biggest fan of the fact that they did that while Superman, while Aquaman is wearing his blue suit that both nobody remembers and nobody really liked, but that's what they have in here. Where the hell is this story? You would think it would be a lot more obvious to find. I'm going to find it, and the reason why I'm going to find it is because it actually has to do with... there you are. So it has to do with Arion, the mage, the high mage of Atlantis. God, he looks amazing here. Look at this. This is the character I love. I love him so much. I don't even care if nobody else knows who he is. I love this character so much because I love magic characters, and his costume design has always been amazing. Just... I love it. Anyway, so let me see who did write this story, because I remember I read the story. I was like, it's okay, but it wasn't my favorite one. So, and then when I saw who was the writer, Stephanie Phillips, I knew it. I was like, her stories aren't terrible, but they're very much hit or miss. Anyway, so we come back to this story, the one I'm actually talking about, where apparently like all of the people who've been around since at least the end of ancient Atlantis, because it says, but ask any Atlantean old enough to remember, where does magic come from, and what's the fear in their eyes? For they know the truth that lies beneath the sunken city, in a way that neither means below nor behind, but beneath, within the nether. So it says, where the dark world lies dreaming, and from those dreams the proto-magi weaved earthly magic for the first time. So that's where we see this thing, because it's basically Merlin talking to Constantine right now. So he says, it is a place of impossible concepts that is yet a living thing now stilled in stupor, lying in wait. So this is where he starts talking. He says, John Constantine, can you feel the impossible power calling from behind this door? Do you understand the great tragedy of the dark world's unwitnessed dreams? Here lies an eternal engine of imagination, an endless source of magic, and what do? You lock it up and forget. A whole world of ideas kept in the dark because your little minds cannot fathom what to do with them. So he tells him, John tells him, sure, I felt that kind of power before, Gov, and in my experience, it's never good news. But why now? You've known of Atlantis and the Dark World for a lot longer than most of us, I reckon. So why are you here now? And this is where Merlin tells him, purpose, John Constantine. Ever since I was a child, I have yearned for purpose. You know this. And I imagine I have that in common with this world that I was born into. He says, do you ever wonder why this tiny planet in an insignificant corner of the cosmos seems to have all the grand narratives and malevolent obsessions centered around it? And I believe that was something that they actually kind of explored in like Bright as Day, that the reason why so many like cosmic events seem to take place on Earth, or at least involve Earth, is because Earth, for whatever reason, was the actual cradle of life. Like it actually held the life being, the White Lantern like being or whatever. So that was the reason why, like, everything always seems to center around Earth. Granted, that no longer seems to be the case, because I was like, I don't know, 6, 7 major events back, so it probably doesn't matter anymore. But that's another thing. Apparently this is their, like, new way of trying to figure it out. So he says, do you ever wonder why all the monsters end up here? And that's where we see, like, Aquaman is helping out, like, the rest of the Justice League Dark, fighting off these giant sea creatures that Merlin has, like, summoned. And so Aquaman is saying, that's the last of them. I'm getting reports that Merlin is inside the old Atlantemplus. We should take the fight to him before he can, but Detective Chimp cuts him off and is like, Aquaman, I don't think this is a fight we want to take inside the city, because he could see, like, a massive, like, force that's just kind of amassing against them and everything. So we see that, and then, advertisement. So we see that it's made up of all of these, like, dead Atlanteans that Merlin has risen from the grave to come and fight them. And so, Aquaman is telling Zatanna, you're going to have to head off Merlin. She says, where's John? I can't risk it, not by myself. And he tells her, what do you mean? The whole Atlantean army is headed there. Now's not the time to. And she's like, you don't understand. But who is it? Ragman says, I'll go with you, back you up. She's like, Ragman? He says, I'll watch your back, Z. Like we talked about back in the Hall of Justice. That's what teams do, right? So Aquaman tells them, form ranks and push them away from the city. Etrigan, make sure they don't flank us. Bobo will need your sword to port us once this fight is finished. And Etrigan tells him no cause for concern, no worry, no matter, no worry, just like old times. Arthur Curry. He's like, my apologies, demon, but this one will have to be quick. Atlantis is at risk, and we don't have time to be playing around. So he uses his power to summon all of the sharks that he can possibly get here, and it looks awesome. Like that right there is what I want to see from Aquaman. Him just leading like an army, a battalion of sharks. Yes, I'm here for that. So he does that, and then we go back to Merlin, who has now put John into like some magic chains, because John actually put up, they didn't show it, but he put up like this magic barrier to keep Merlin from it. He says, we have no time to be playing around. Please, John, I'd rather not destroy something I might yet have use for. Undo your pitiful little barrier spell. You're a smart man. You know it'll barely slow me down. So John tells him, oh, you do love to yammer on, don't you, you old git? Barely's all I need. I know I don't stand a chance against you. And then we see Merlin gets attacked. Because, of course, John was setting up by saying, but you might find that she's a bit more up to the task, because Zatanna shows up and she starts attacking. So we're going to see what happens, because we see her getting, like, ultra pissed, getting ready to unleash her rage, I guess. So we're going to see what happens with that, because she says in her backwards type of magic, she says, crackle and burn. So I don't really know how that's going to work, because y'all are underwater. How is he going to burn? So I guess we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, like I said, still the backup story is the better story in this whole like Justice League bullshit. Unfortunately, I do still read the Bendis story because it's included with the story I actually want to read. So I mean that's what you have from that. But if anybody out there has read this, do feel free to let me know what you thought about it. I let me know where you think this is going. This whole like Deathstrokes thing taking on Checkmate, and apparently that somehow involves the greater Justice League. I don't know. We'll see what actually develops from that. But yeah, if you read this, do feel free to let me know what you think down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, then definitely like the video. Make sure you're subscribed and share the video if you would like. I always appreciate that. But if you're done here, then go and read a book. And if not, then I'll see you on my next video.